Neil, can we just start with obviously the chairman's announcement yesterday that the review into performances is ongoing? Is that something you're happy with, that it's just going to be a continual process?
Yeah, I mean, that's natural every season, regardless of whether the club announced a review in December. You're always being reviewed. I do agree with him that the performances or the on-field results have been disappointing. That's something we're looking to rectify between now and the end of the season. In terms of the finances, we're not immune to the difficulties of the pandemic, but we're still quite strong financially and quite robust.
I think, obviously, I think a lot of the fans were expecting this review was going to end on such and such a date, and there was going to be announcements, on that day or the next day.
Well, obviously not. I don't know. It's a new thing for me to go through a process like this. I haven't experienced it before, so I can't tell you the answer to that. If there's going to be definitive answers that the supporters want or not. At the minute, I'm just carrying on from day to day, game to game.
From your own point of view, are you secure in your future at the club and what's happening going forward?
You're never secure in your role as a manager anyway, especially when you've been through difficult times. But yeah, I'm quite comfortable with the way my position is at the minute, and until that changes, I'll give my best every day.
Has it been a strange experience, Neil, as you mentioned, having that sort of review cloud hanging over you?
Do you know what? I've not taken any notice of it really. The only time I think about it is when you guys bring it up. So it's not affected my work or my thought processes at all.
You mentioned there that the finances are pretty strong. I think that was a loss of £6 million. But for you, in the club as a general, is there no worry regarding that? No.
Well, we just sold a player for 12 million. So this is a well-run club, and like I say, every club in the UK and around the world has suffered during this pandemic. We're not immune to it, but I think we're still in a healthy position compared to a lot of other clubs.
You're secure in that sense. On the field, as you mentioned, the performances are sort of back to where you want them to be. How pleasing is that for you? And when you look now to where it was maybe a month ago, does it feel like the players are totally revived? Does it feel like a new team back?
It just feels, obviously with winning games and playing well, there's a nice sort of confidence about them and belief in the way they're playing, and that just comes with winning. The atmosphere around the place is good. Training's bubbly, and all the players are sort of playing for each other, and it's quite a close-knit group at the minute.
Neil, many club chairmen have said that it may take a few years for clubs to come out of this pandemic. Are Celtic in a healthier position than many others?
I don't know, Brian. I don't know what the finances are of other clubs. But I would say that this club is always well run financially. It's quite prudent. It's quite smart in acquiring players and then player sales. Every year we've more or less sold a player for a lot of money, and going through the lockdown, it was a very difficult period financially for the club in terms of lost revenues, and obviously with no sort of game day revenues coming in as well this season. We've had to be prudent about things, and that's no different to any other club really. But I think financially we're robust, we're strong, and hopefully you'll see that come to fruition in the future.
How have is the financial situation impacted on yourself in terms of you being able to do your job to the best of your ability?
Well, it hasn't really. We've not really spent any money in the January window. Brought John Joe in, and obviously we've sold El Hamed and Frimpong. Two players who made it clear that they wanted to go. In Cham, he wanted to go as well. So, in terms of finances, that's not been dictated to me. It's more or less a question of, players were unhappy, and they made that clear for a while. And we thought it best from a footballing point of view that we move the players on.
And going back to tomorrow night's game, first of all, Aberdeen, you're taking on a team who not scored in the last 5 games. the manager's under a little bit of pressure at the moment as well. Maybe some say a lot of pressure just now. You have a little bit of sympathy with Derek and some of the criticism that's gone his way.
Well, again, I don't sort of read too much into that. I think Derek's an outstanding manager. He's done something, not many modern day managers do. He's had that longevity at one club. I think he's been very loyal to Aberdeen when he could have gone on to maybe bigger and better things at other clubs, but he's remained loyal and stayed, and I think that loyalty should be reciprocated at the minute. We all go through difficult periods. This season is not normal by any stretch of the imagination, as we've seen not just here in Scotland but elsewhere. So I think if anyone deserves a bit of loyalty and patience, it's Derek.
As managers, do you speak about it between yourselves at all, about the pressures of running clubs like Celtic and Aberdeen?
No, you give out support, because we're all in the same sort of boat at times, and I've got, like I said, I've not hidden my admiration for the work that he's done in his managerial career. I think he's a very fine manager, and I hope he stays there as long as he wants to.
Thanks, Neil.
Neil, how far forward are you with your plans for the summer in terms of ins and outs?
Yeah, we're moving along with them quite nicely.
Would you expect a big turnover? Is it 3 or 4? Is it more than that? What's your gut feeling on that?
I'm not going to, give away club business at the minute. That's for later on down the line. Yeah, I would expect there'd be, a few changes to the football and personnel.
How difficult is it to scout these players at the minute? Is it any difference from previous seasons?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't get to see live viewings. That's the difficulty that you have at the minute. And all you can do is watch the games on TV or, on the computer, and that's not ideal.
Neil, you talked about the club being in a robust financial position. When you look at players like Odsonne Edouard and Christopher Ayer, who've only got less than 18 months now left in their deal, does that mean that with the situation, the club will have to sell them in the summer, or is there scope for new deals for them?
Well, both. You could look at both scenarios. We have spoken to both their representatives about sitting down and discussing new contracts, but that's not been forthcoming at the minute. So we'll have to wait and see what the summer brings. But what we do have is we have a team full of assets, and like I say, we just sold one there for a huge amount of money.
When you talked about Jeremy and Hatem, they're want away players, and that's why they went out in the end. Will that be the same in the summer? If anyone does want to leave, they show that they might want to leave, then they'll just be sold straight away? Not
necessarily. Every sort of individual situation has to be taken on its own merits. So again, I've touched on how unhappy Hatem was with the living conditions away from his work, and how difficult it was for him on a personal level. And you have to take in the health and well-being of individuals as well now, more than ever. So again, you just look at each individual case and, we'll sort of come hopefully to the right decision going forward on each one.
Just finally going back to Odsonne, how good is it to have him? He looks back to his best right now, and he's top scorer in the league with 15 goals. How good's that? Yeah,
it's fantastic. He's a brilliant player. I think 15 goals, you can get a lot more. At the end of, going into the lockdown, he had 27. And that was his best return in the season, and the season wasn't finished. So I think, and I'm hoping that there's a lot more to come from him in terms of goals. What pleased me more about his performance on Sunday, particularly in the second half, was his all-round play. It was absolutely superb. The way he manipulated the ball under pressure. His physical attributes were there, his speed was there, and he scored 2 magnificent goals. The second goal is a brilliant team goal, which has been sort of overlooked a little bit by a lot of people, but from a team point of view on an awful pitch, it was an outstanding goal.
Hi Neil. Hi Neil. Neil, with the likes of Odsonne and the way he's playing just now, if you are sort of forced to sell him for financial reasons come the end of the season, how important is it that he's playing as he is right now so that you get top dollar for him in the summer?
Well, regardless of whether he goes or not, the club will look at all interest, all sort of actual bids for him, and make the best decision for the club. I'm not sure his current form has any bearing on how much he'll go for, because he's a top class player, as everybody knows. But it's great for us that he is in great form, and I don't want to talk about him leaving. He'd much rather stay here for the foreseeable future.
Bigger part do you think he's played then in the turnaround over the last few weeks for the team?
Well, he's played his part. He's certainly contributed, but so have many others. So, I'm happy with the team as well as some of the individual performances as well.
Can I ask you one, Neil, a little bit off topic, if you don't mind? Some really moving words last night from James McLean's wife, who says that he's had, online hate pretty much on a daily basis for throughout his whole career, death threats, etc. For someone who's had that sort of situation yourself, do you feel for them, and do you have any words of comfort at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, I've seen on Sky News today, the pressure that, football in its own right is starting to put on these social media platforms. It should have been done a long time ago, Keith. And these social media platforms, don't, display any accountability or look after the people who are on the end of this constant abuse, whether it be racial, whether it be sectarian, whether it be personal, whether it be social. It's a real, poison in modern day society. It's more prevalent, in football because it's so much more public and out there. But it's disgusting, and I'm fed up of talking about it now because nothing gets done. It's about time these people were named, shamed, and dealt with by the police or the courts, because it's just totally unacceptable. It's almost as if it's all right to do it now. It's almost as if your own personal thoughts can be put out on a public platform. Maybe you've had a few drinks, you don't mean it, but it's out there, and you have no regard for the recipient. And I'm seeing it a lot in English football now. It's got to come to a head. And I'm glad the associations, I'm glad Sky, as a public platform are, making this really relevant now. And, it's been too long. It's been going on for far too long.
For someone like James, how difficult must it be for him, and having you been in this situation yourself, to go out and play football on a Saturday when you're reading this stuff on a daily basis?
Well, how would you do your job, Keith, if people were threatening you and your family?
I don't know.
Well, it would be so difficult for you. And then this kid has to go out and play professional football, albeit, yes, everyone will go, well, he's well paid for it. He's not well paid to take abuse from, all and sundry about his background, his religion, or his family. And, I'm in a press conference here. You put yourself in his shoes, people threatening to burn his house, threatening his family, constantly, on a daily basis. You'd be looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes. And I've been through it myself, and it's a lonely place. And I hope he gets the right support. It's all right, people putting out statements saying we're going to support him. Do it. Show it. Associations, clubs, show it. It's not just James. It's all these kids who are getting racially abused in England as well. The young lad down at Swansea. It's just absolutely scandalous now.
Thanks, Neil. Well said. Thank you.